What is up? What's up? What's up? What's up, everyone? Good afternoon, or should I say good night. And first and foremost, my apologies as it relates to the late start. It's funny when you have a number of things planned, and then, of course, you have your own technical difficulties that's happening. So that's exactly what I experienced. But for those of you guys who will be joining, even though it's a little bit late, we're starting at 8:15. That's an hour after we would have forecasted to start. Welcome and welcome to another episode. It's actually the third episode, even though I would have done a couple of them earlier this year. But this is episode number 3 in the format that I believe is best suited for us to be for me to be able to deliver directly to you all of the What's the Deal series. And the What's the Deal series is all about taking information as it relates to sales, marketing, entrepreneurship. Even if you guys know it already, we are going to dig into it a little bit deeper. If it is you've never heard about it before, well, of course, that is the reason as to why we are here. And we are going to now understand what is the deal with these terms, techniques, technologies, and stuff like that. We're going to dig into it a lot deeper. And also what's actually happening within the mix, what's happening in the different industries. So whatever is happening from a current event standpoint, we're going to look at that. So we're not just going to be talking tips and technologies, we're going to talk about what's happening in the industry. So this episode in itself is really an episode to dig into something called iOS 15. So first, before I go into that, Alison, good night. Thank you for your patience and for joining. Lois, across there in Jamaica, thank you for joining as well. And of course, just want to give a big shout out because Lois is part of the OPAAT-SWY team and a huge contributor. Don't know what I will do without her sometimes, right? And Juma, yes, you're jumping in to say hello. Hello, brother. Thank you for joining in. So what we're going to be discussing today, guys, is today we're going to be discussing something along the lines of a current event. It's a buzz. Apple came out with their new software just about a week ago. So like next week is going to tomorrow is going to make it a full 7 days. So they would have rolled out iOS 15. But even before they had iOS 15, we also had iOS 14.5 and iOS. Apple said that they were going to introduce something called mail privacy protection. And that has put a lot of people in the mix. Tisha, good night. Yeah, Tisha, I know that you're balancing the two. So of course, right? So we're going to dig a little bit deeper into what this is all about. So we're going to be talking a lot about iOS 15 and email marketing privacy. So let's kind of go into it a little bit, right? So what is it? What is mail privacy protection? First and foremost, are any of you guys Apple users? Yes, you can just put maybe a raise of your hand, or you can just drop a Y or a no in the comments. If you're not an Apple user, you're kind of missing out on the experience. I just say, right? And anybody else who agrees with me, who are Apple users, you all could chime in on the thing here. I'm not a fanboy, but I just understand the ecosystem and I know what I get coming out from it, right? But we're looking at what is mail privacy protection that was launched last week Tuesday, and really and truly, mail privacy protection, according to Apple, and this is actually coming from litmus.com, it actually hides your IP address so senders can't link it to other activity or determine your location, and it prevents senders from seeing if and when you've opened your emails. Now, check this. I love certain things about email tracking. So when I heard this in the very first instance, I was like, shoot, that is actually going to affect us. But if it is that we understand who Apple is, we know that Apple has a big thing they're very big on privacy, right? And we can't really fault them on that because again, we all love our privacy on our devices. So what does that really mean for us? Now, the experience that some people have had as it relates to, as it relates to privacy, it varies. Some people don't really care about it. They just jump into anything, whatever the device is. They don't put certain things about passwords or just the way that we actually use passwords. Um, So from a privacy standpoint, it's here or there with some folks. But when it comes to the context that Apple is talking about here today, or in now that they've actually rolled out iOS 15, they're really speaking about their users or users in general, right? And what is it that we want to look at is that this actually happened because we have two big juggernauts in the tech space, but they have different views as to what privacy is all about. So I'm not saying it's wholly and solely for Facebook's fault, but Facebook takes a big bite of taking the blame for this, right? So we know that Apple is tight as it relates to privacy. However, Facebook needs your privacy. Facebook actually needs your information because that's how Facebook sort of makes their money, right? They actually use their data to track you. And of course, we've all had the experience where if it is that we were maybe looking at something on Amazon, or we would look at something on YouTube, or we would look at something on Facebook, right? What happens there is that those things leave little pixels, tracers, right? And they track you. So what happens is from there is that you now go to a different site, and all of a sudden, something that you saw that you had an interest on Amazon is now showing up in a Google ad or a Facebook ad. And you're thinking, well, wait a minute, how these people know me? It's not really because they know you, it's because they're using those pixels to share that information. Now, we also know that for those of us in Trinidad and Tobago, we would have had, oh, the name has slipped me, but just coming out of one of our past elections, we would have had a series, or not a series, but a point of contention as it relates to data and Facebook, one particular political party contributing to the selling of data. So all of those things are things that Apple has been very, very aware of, and they say, you know what, we have to find different ways. So it really started off with Facebook, and both juggernauts in the tech space address privacy differently. One needs it, the other one says, you know what, we want to give people more control over their how they attract and the things that they do, and if it is that you are seeing their emails or not. Excuse me. But there's also some other people at fault here, and those are, let's say, in relation to some of our marketers. Because, and Keisha, she actually brought it up yesterday. I wasn't able to take a screenshot of her comment, but she actually put a post out there yesterday indicating that her email address was found on Instagram, Facebook again, right? part of that family. And the person, without her permission, put her in an email marketing campaign, right? And she started to get a series of emails. So she had to actually ask the person, well, where did you get my stuff from? Or I think the email indicated that, hey, we got your stuff from Instagram. And this is how we believe that we might be a good fit. And I get those things all the time, right? So when it comes to email marketing abuse is a big factor. And I just have this screenshot here of one of the many email marketing emails I get, and a lot of them sometimes I unsubscribe from, and you all could share with me as well as to how much email marketing emails you get. But the thing is, the reason why I say abuse sometimes is because they have bad practices, and those practices sometimes come from, I may download something, but it doesn't necessarily mean I want to hear from you again. If I had to use my girl Tisha as an example, let's say Tisha leaves something out there as it relates to um, calculating a wedding. So she has this wedding calculator, or she has a step-by-step guide in terms of planning your wedding if you want to do it as a do-it-yourself. I could download that. But here's the thing, it doesn't mean that I may want to consistently keep receiving emails from Tisha. I just happen to see it, and I may never come back in Tisha's direction again. But what email marketers do is that we use that from a standpoint of immediate lead gen, and we start putting those people into email marketing campaigns. So I'm going to talk a little bit later on as to why that was an okay practice in the past, but that has to change now, right? So poor email marketing approaches was also a big factor. And based upon the devices that we actually use, those devices, they give feedback to marketers. So how does it actually work with this whole Apple device, with this whole email, this privacy protection? Well, if it is a you are, so when users get this new update, what will happen from what is it that you're seeing on the screen here? What will happen is that users are now going to be asked to opt in. So it's not a mandatory thing from Apple, but they're actually giving users the ability to opt in, and they're letting them know, hey, what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be finding ways, or we have a way to help protect your IP address, to hide where you're actually coming from, right? And maybe your exact location. So if it is a list, for instance, in Trinidad and Tobago, there are particular tools I can use that if you fill out a form, I can actually see where you may be, or where did you fill out that particular form, whether it was in Takariga, or it was in Arima, and stuff like that. And I can maybe use targeted campaigns to target you based upon your location. And if it is that you have opened the email, well, of course, I can now track your email opens. Now, those are legitimate, especially the last one, is a legitimate metric. So, as it relates to how does it work, the first thing that you will get when you go into the opening the Mail app to read your emails, providing that you're using Apple Mail, to read your emails, whether you have a Gmail account or not, once it's passing through Apple's Mail app, this is what's going to come up as an option, right? So the user gets the ability to opt in first, right? Who's affected by this? Well, the people who are actually affected is mainly going to be marketers, developers, and anyone using, pardon my spelling on the word using at the end here. So using software that tracks you. So we have Contact, Pinterest, um, HubSpot, we have not SurveyMonkey, MailChimp, and we have Active Campaigns. But there are many other applications that do that. Plus, I'm using Pinterest as an example. And the example here is when you're using Pinterest now, so Apple has sort of guided um, these developers to implement some best practices. So what happens now is Pinterest is actually going to say, hey, listen, we are actually going to be using certain things to track you. We want to know if you have the ability, if you want to give us the permission to do that or not. Or this is how our app works. So we actually use that to track. Now, this was in iOS 14.5, I believe, but now it's definitely mandatory in iOS 15. And for those of us again who are Apple users, you may have seen where we can actually ask the software. Apple would kind of give us our guidance to say, hey, do you want to ask this app to not track you? Again, it's giving the users a lot more control as it relates to what does the developer, what does the marketing personnel and stuff see about you? Because again, do you want to be targeted? Do you not want to be targeted? Right? So if it is that we're moving forward here, taking that out of the mix, what's going to be affected are things like your open rate metrics, your traffic, could be your site traffic. Because if it is that you have those pixels are removed, and there are ways that Apple is going to be doing it in the background to kind of scrub the pixels away from your activity, you would not know if a customer is coming back to your site. That again is going to be removed. But again, they have to be an Apple user for you to experience that. But the question there is, would other, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I'll just put the question out there. Normally what happens in a trend like this, because people look at ethics, quote unquote, people may say, well, you may have Google may come on board later on, and then Samsung may come on board later on, and they will say, you know what, yes, we want to give these folks and they the ability to, we want to give our users the ability to say, well, we don't want to be tracked like that. So let's start replicating what Apple just did, and let's start doing this as well. So whether it's in a year's time, you may see Google's or Android software changing to represent that. I think Samsung. I'm not an Android user, so I would assume that Samsung is still using Android's software, right? But yeah, so when we're looking at things like marketing metrics, open rates, database emails, that's actually very important. I think it's on the next slide because, so I'm going to go back to the example here. So one leaves a piece of content out there because, of course, it's a lead gen strategy when you're looking at things from an email marketing standpoint or a marketing standpoint. So whether it's a case study, whether it's some sort of downloadable ebook, etc., etc., folks now have the ability through iOS 15 to hide that email. And what's going to happen, so if you notice what's up on the screen to the right hand side, excuse me, um, you have the option of hiding the email. And what it will do is Apple will generate a fake email. So what's coming into your database is going to have, maybe you're not going to have legitimate emails coming into your database if folks decide to use this particular option. So again, your email marketing activity would not be the best, because if it is that you do start email marketing, folks who would have left an email and they use this feature, your bounce rates are actually going to be high. So if it is, I had to go back to the other slide when I was talking about what's affected, your bounce rates may actually go up. So apart from things like open rates and stuff like that, you may have a lot of corrupted data in there because you can't really use that information, right? Because they're going to be using proxies as well, which is fake stuff, to channel the information through, you know? So again, this is really, really key in terms of how do we actually go about doing it. Now, there are a couple of things with this, right? Because while I was looking at this and listening to it, I was kind of asking myself, so how is that affecting us here in the Caribbean? Like, how much of us will be affected? Now, I don't know the distribution between um, Samsung phones or what do you call them? Google phones and all the other different devices, and those devices that use Android, or people who are using Gmail, and of course the distribution on your Apple's devices. So folks who will be using iOS. I don't know what the market share is like, but it did encourage me to do some investigation. And I don't know, I can't remember if it's on the other slide or not, right? But it raised the question to say, well, is email marketing actually dead? Not exactly, right? Because while I was looking in HubSpot, because I use email marketing, right? I was asking a colleague of mine if MailChimp had this particular feature. And actually, well, he said he wasn't sure, but then he said he came back and he said, I'm pretty sure it does not. He didn't get the opportunity to check it. But if you guys are familiar with what I'm going to explain here, you all can let me know if MailChimp does have this feature. While looking in HubSpot, I did some checking to see, and HubSpot has this particular feature that gives you opens by email clients. Now, what does this mean? This means that people who I am emailing, I get the ability to see what devices, what mail clients are they using. Now, why is that good for me, or why is that good for email marketers? Well, specifically those who may be using HubSpot, is because you now get to pay attention to the distribution of customers or people who are in your database that this particular iOS feature, how is your email marketing campaigns going to be affected? Now, if you notice, what's there is only just about 10%, right? So there's only about 10% of people who I address in my email marketing campaigns have iOS devices. And honestly, I am pretty sure that, I am pretty sure that that may be similar for most people in Trinidad and Tobago, and by extension the Caribbean region, because Samsungs and other Android devices are affordable, and they also have different. I mean, when I look at different people, what they have in their hands, I do see a lot of customers using, or users using, um, Android devices more than actual Apple devices, right? So that's a plus. But again, having this feature, and I want to maybe ask is if any one of you guys are using um, MailChimp, Constant Contact, or otherwise, do you have the ability to look in the back end of your analytics to see how is this actually going to impact you? Because look at it as well, right? You also have Outlook 2016. That is the version of Outlook that the person is using. We have Outlook Mobile. We have Outlook 2007. We have Firefox browsers. So it really does give you a breakdown as to where are your recipients or your customers opening your emails from, and how much are you going to be impacted by this buy? And if it is that you are going to be impacted, then sort of what strategies that you're going to take. Now, there are no, how should I say, there's no immediate answer for this just yet. It's all new. And just like me, you have many marketers who are now going to be figuring out, so how do we actually address something like that? Let's say, for instance, it was 50-50. Let's say I had 50% on iOS, and everybody who has Apple devices have opted into this, then how is that going to impact me, and what should I actually be doing now? I don't have the immediate answer. That's why I believe that the answer to this requires more parts, meaning I may have to have a part one or a part two. But for me, I just actually put together a list as it relates to best practices as it relates to email marketing, because here's how we can look at this now, right? Could we safely say to me maybe that now open rates and stuff are vanity metrics, just like how we like to call views on LinkedIn and Instagram and stuff like that? Do we call those things vanity metrics now? So because I know that we use them, marketers use them in their role to provide information to sales teams, to their customers, especially those who are in the space of digital marketing and using email marketing as a thing, or anyone who's creating strategies along the lines of leaving downloadables to start generating lead generation to continuously keep emailing customers and moving them through the funnel. Again, is there an immediate strategy for that? I do not know. I don't have one immediately, but here's what I think that we could do now. We can start looking at the best practices when it comes to proper email marketing campaigns. And because we've sort of messed up other past email marketers or existing email marketers, we've sort of taken customers for granted, just always sent them generalized emails no matter what, then this might be what's going to force us to be better or to do better jobs or kind of step our game up. So the first thing that I have there is really respecting people's privacy. So one of my biggest faux pas when I started my email marketing journey is that in the very, very beginning, I just had a whole bunch of emails that I took and I put into my database within HubSpot. I just started emailing everybody. But here's the thing that happened with that. I got people actually that I knew, they started to unsubscribe because they didn't. As a matter of fact, the first email that I sent out, a colleague of mine said, hey, one of the things that you need to do is that you need to give people permission, or you need to get permission to start emailing people, right? But again, that's not something I knew, but we need to get the permission to start emailing them. And then we want to now make sure that we segment, because not every message is for everybody. I know that there are people who use email marketing campaigns, and I'm sharing these as my mistakes in the beginning. Whatever your message is, you're sending it to everybody. And sometimes your messages are irrelevant, especially if we sell different types of products or different types of services. Your messaging might be irrelevant to some individuals that you're receiving. So after a while, what happens? Those people they may not unsubscribe. You tend to find that your open rates going down, right? Or it's eventually put in junk. They don't want to be disrespectful. They just want to say, I really want to keep seeing more of these. Let me move this into the junk. So it's being delivered, but it's no longer being opened. So you'll find yourself now being tasked with this exercise of cleaning up your database, right? So proper segmentation, and well, I'll get to that later on. And then now get the right permissions and the right emails, because you want to make sure that your emails are contextualized as it relates to your content. You want to also be able to filter out bad and underperforming emails. So if it is that you realize that you have your high bounce rates, put a structure in place so that you can get this thing done properly, so that someone can now go back and reach out to your customers. Or there are particular filters online that you can test emails, right? And you can test to see if this is still a good email or not. So it will verify the emails for you online. And if it's coming up negative, you get rid of it, you trash it, right? Because it doesn't make sense. You have a nice big filter and or a nice big list. Half of your list or 3/4 of your list is trash, right? I prefer have a small list. I always believe in quality over quantity, right? So have a small list, and coming out of your small list, you try to make sure that you're giving quality, so not everyone needs to get every single email. An exercise that Lois and I are doing, is that we've reached out to as many people in our database as possible, asking them for their permission, and also telling them, hey, you know what, thanks for giving us permission. Also choose what you want to get from us. So that means apart from me just asking for your permission, Allison, I'm saying, here, well, out of these 4 things, choose what you want for me to email you on. And if you have to receive that email once a month, Allison, I'm going to give you that once a month. It's extremely, extremely important because your content needs to be contextualized, your customers need to be segmented, and of course now you want to be able to mix up your outreach. And your outreach is extremely important. When I say mix up your outreach, try doing different things that will, and that could actually take you back into doing things like making a couple phone calls if it is that you have the emails. Also, it may not be a bad idea to also ask for an email. Sorry, for a phone number, based upon what your downloadable is. Again, it all comes down to whatever piece of content that you're putting out there that you want people to interact with, and what information that you want, and how are you going to use that after. And make sure that you're very, very clear with it. There's one cool thing that's inside of HubSpot that is there, which is called it's called double opt-in strategy, right? And the double opt-in strategy really means that after you download something, what is going to happen next is that it's going to say, hey, Joel, we just know that we thank you for, here's your download. But what we want to do is that we want to make sure that you are open to receiving future emails from us. And if it is that you use your double opt-in strategy, it will now help you because the customer will say, yes, I want to get something. So again, you're removing that how do you call it, boy? That very frivolous or flaky first approach by just putting a downloadable out there, right? And then you just jumping straight into their inbox and keep sending them stuff. A lot of the times you may not get them as repeats. They may open and read, but it doesn't convert. And remember that we want to be interacting with these customers through our email marketing campaigns for a purpose, and that purpose is business. We want those people to be coming back as it relates to business strategies. So the email marketing campaign has to be part of your funnel. Everything has to be a purpose. We can't be doing frivolous email marketing. We can't be email marketing for email marketing's sake, right? So we have here Allison saying that she prefers that strategy, and she's actually saying here, let me see if I can bring up her, right? So Allison is saying, I am tired of getting daily emails with content that I'm really not interested in just because I once downloaded a piece of content. See what I'm saying? So Allison connects with that because we know we do it. We do it. It is, we are culprits of it, right? And I'm not sure if it's anyone local, Allison, or internationally. So yeah, so people, that is why you have this from where it's not going to hide the email. So you imagine Apple is going to help a customer give a fake email. We really don't want that. You understand? And that is not the type of relationship we want to build, with your customers. So I would also suggest to other things that's not here. Excuse me. Other things that's not here is really sort of communicating with your customer early. So even if they're downloading it, you could maybe on your landing page with your download, and I hope that we're using landing pages, put together a video just explaining the type of relationship that you want to build, letting them know that, possibly you're going to get a little bit more information from it, right? Lois is saying here, she said further up, she's saying, getting permission, yes, is important, and segmentation is also very important. It keeps your information relevant, right? And again, I mean, I can't stress on segmentation. I can't stress on it enough because it is an important part. Listen, this is why we can't mix sales and marketing. Like a sales rep can't be doing email marketing because email marketing or marketing on the whole has to work in conjunction with the sales department. And this, like what I'm explaining here, is work. Somebody has to pay attention to the database. Somebody has to have a strategy for making sure and mining the database to make sure that what the sales reps are bringing in or what the sales reps are going to be receiving is good quality information. So it has to be a good lead because we don't want to be giving a bad lead to how do you say? We don't want to be giving a bad lead to a sales rep. we want to make sure that the sales rep is getting good quality leads, because those things are going to waste their time, right? So that is really and truly what I wanted to share with you all today. I'm not sure if you all have any particular questions, guys, but as I say, when it comes to iOS, excuse me, when it comes to iOS and Apple, like, I'm not too afraid of it. Yes, it is going to change the way that we do our email marketing. Yes, it is going to kind of slow us down in terms of understanding opening rates. So again, those metrics that email marketers need, because it's legitimate things. Yeah, I mean, not every email marketer is a bad email marketer, but those things that email marketers need to do their job and do their job effectively is going to be affected. So how did they go about doing that? That's why I'm saying that this topic, this is part one to this topic. All right, and I'm definitely going to find other people who, excuse me, who are trying to find their ways around this. Because having these type of conversations on a current event like this, not current event, sorry, but a scenario like this, is important. So I do hope to you all that this was actually valuable. Um, Drop your any particular comments and stuff that you have down to the bottom. And but this, as I said too, this is actually the beginning or the relaunch of the What's the Deal series. And What's the Deal is me really asking, what's the deal with X? What's the deal with content creation? What's the deal with sales enablement? What's the deal with email marketing? Whatever it is, we're going to identify what the situation is with that. What are the best practices? What is it? How it should be done? Who's responsible? Who's affected? And kind of figure out ways that we could all go about getting better, in terms of putting, so we improve the things that we are doing. So I do thank you all for your time and your patience. As I said, we started late. And sometimes you can't do anything with technology. You just have to live. You have to kind of abide by whatever the tech says. So the laptop acted iffy this afternoon, and it cost me an hour. But I do appreciate that you guys are actually here with me. So the stream is going to be up. It's going to also be on YouTube, and of course, you'll see me resharing different bits of this content. If it is that you do have any questions as relates to topics that you think that we could be asking, what's the deal on? Definitely appreciate it. You just say, Linda, I'd love to know what's the deal with this, and we start digging into it from there. If I can't answer the question wholly and solely, I will definitely find someone to help answer those questions for us. All right. So thanks a lot, Allison. Totally appreciate it. Allison is saying here, very interesting and informative, Lyndon. Thank you very much. And thank you again for your time, guys. Have a great Tuesday night. Go get some rest, watch some television, or just do something. All right. Bye-bye. Peace.